Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Bryce. I'm a meteorologist with the National Weather Service over in El Paso, Texas. Well, today we're going to talk about prompting. I think prompting is very important when it comes to generative AI or Gemini that we'll be using. Whether you may have heard of like prompt engineering, prompting skills. Prompting is the new job security thing. It is important. It is the way we communicate with the generative AI, with Gemini or the LLM. So it is important that you learn how to prompt in a way that you get the quickest, most direct information out of the AI. The example I like to use is that if you go to your friend and you say, "Hey, where can we go out to eat for dinner tonight?" Just that. Your friend may come back with anything from McDonald's to a high end steakhouse. But if you instead, and you go, that's too many, it's too vague. But if you instead you go to your friend and say, "Hey, I'm feeling like maybe some Asian food tonight. Uh, can you think of a restaurant here on the east side of town that's a sit down restaurant that has meals that cost less than $25?" You're much more likely to get the response you're looking for from your friend, kind of thing. And the same thing happens with the generative AI, with Gemini. Uh, Providing the right information will get you a faster, better results than you've had. So if you've ever had trouble with Gemini, if you've gotten in there and you go, it just doesn't give me what I want. It keeps it won't say exactly what I'm looking for. It may be your prompting. I'm hoping at the end of this that you will be prompting like a champion when we get to the end of this presentation. This presentation may go on a little longer than my other presentations because I do feel that prompting is very, very important when it comes to these generative AIs. So again, so what is prompting? Basically, you're providing specific instructions to a Gen AI tool, in this case Gemini, to try to get some piece of information out of it or a desired outcome on a task. So you give it some instructions and then it will take those instructions and give you some kind of output. Just like forecasting, though, these prompts is both an art and a science. You can have a very long prompt, you can have a short prompt. Sometimes you'll give it a persona, as you'll see. Sometimes you'll give it some limitations. All of these things can kind of come into a factor. Now, I don't want to intimidate you. It's actually pretty easy, and once you get in there, once you get in there, you will see that this isn't so hard, and beginning to prompt it shouldn't actually take. I've read stories where people spend hours writing up this meticulous prompt, and you'll see why that just doesn't need to be the case. To prompt is actually a very simple thing if you follow some of this framework that I've got. So why should we learn prompting? Well, it's becoming it's becoming a needed skill. Just like you and I can Google very well, this prompting is going to become important as well. When I say Googling, when you go to Google, and when I would do some research, and I would Google, I need pictures of lightning from Florida. Everybody in Florida knows that if I type that into Google, what's going to happen? You're going to get a bunch of hockey pictures because of the Tampa Bay Lightning. But over the years, I've learned that if I type lightning in Florida and then put the minus sign and put the word hockey after that, then that will eliminate all those hockey pictures, and I get the pictures that I want much more quickly. And the same thing with prompting. It's just a skill that we're going to learn over the next few years to help us get better responses from the AI. So there it says there on my next bullet point, better results from your AI with better prompts. And actually, it will hopefully get you your results faster. One of the things that we'll talk about in prompting is iterating. So you give it a prompt and it doesn't quite get what you want, so you modify it a little and you send it in again, and we're getting closer, and you keep going back and forth. If you give it a good prompt before the first time through, you're much more likely to jump over several of those iterations and get to the prompt that you want. And you can actually save prompts. If you have one that kind of works for you, you can save it. You can create a prompt library, maybe a Google Doc that has prompts that have worked with you in the past, and then you can grab one of them and drop it in there, and then maybe modify it slightly. So it's a great way to go. So there's this framework. It's the TCREI. I asked Gemini, give me some words that we can help people remember TCREI, and it came up with a whole bunch. But thunderstorms can rapidly evolve inside was the one that I kind of like the most. And basically what that means is that the T stands for task. Define what you want. And I'm going to go into each of these into a lot of detail. The C is for context. Provide any necessary information for the AI. R is for references, and that's just examples. You can give you can give Gemini no examples, or you can give it a whole bunch of examples. Evaluate. So once you've given it the task, the context, and the reference, you evaluate what it sends back to you, the results. And if you don't like it, you iterate. Always be iterating. So that's it. Task, context, references, evaluate, and iterate. Now, like I said, Jim and I came up with a whole bunch of different ideas. So if you're having trouble remembering that, you could also remember timing conditions and risks, evaluate impacts, or track cell rotation, estimate inflow, or one of my better favorite ones was tomorrow's convective risk estimates increase. I like thunderstorms can rapidly evolve inside. All you need to do is remember TCREI. Basically, TCR is what you do to send the prompt in, evaluate, and then iterate. So TCREI is what you need to remember. Now we're going to go through a whole bunch. We're going to go break these down, the TCREI framework, and I'm going to have a whole bunch of example prompts for you to see. So task, define what you want. The task is like it says there, is the foundation of any prompt. You're describing to the AI what you want it to do. Be clear and specific. Vague instructions are going to give you vague or maybe unhelpful results. Same thing when I gave that example at the beginning, talking about when you wanted to figure out the restaurant that you wanted to eat at. If you give it a vague question, you're going to get maybe a whole bunch of different responses and likely not the one that you want. So you want to be clear and specific. Now, when you're doing the task, you can actually give the AI a persona. Tell it to pretend to be somebody. You are an MIC, or you are a meteorologist. Or for the output, you can say, give the output in the form so that a fifth grader can understand it, or for emergency managers can understand it. You can adjust your prompt so that it will take on the role and it will change how the AI kind of interprets things. And then again, you can, like I said, you can specify the format, how you want the output to appear. Maybe you want it in a bullet list, maybe you want it in paragraph summaries, a table, short sentences, outline, something like that. These are all, you want it to give the prompt with the task, and like I said, you can give it a persona and then kind of specify the output so that it knows what format that you want. It may give you a great, if you tell it to summarize a document, but it writes it up in 3 long paragraphs, and you just wanted some bullet points that you could drop into a Google Slides presentation. Now you have to go back and do it again, but this time just say, give me the bullet points. You could short circuit that if you kind of included that in your prompt as you were going along. So here are some example prompts. You are a forecast assistant, review and summarize. So you tell it who it is, forecaster assistant, and you want it to review and summarize the area forecast discussions for the offices, maybe around your office, like Norman, Tulsa, Wichita, Fort Worth, Dodge City, and Amarillo. And then it can actually read those, and then it will give you a summary of the weather across kind of the south central region of the United States. Or here's another prompt, generate. So that's what you wanted. You wanted to create a list of safety precautions for severe thunderstorm warnings, and include specific advice for people in mobile homes. And then you tell it, give it list in both a single paragraph and a bulleted list. And that gives you that flexibility. Maybe you're doing a social media post or something like that, and you can get it two different ways. Or you can tell it translate. Again, tell it what action you want to take. You translate the following flash flood warning text into simple, non-technical Spanish, and then you give it the text that you want it to translate. So you can see how by giving it a persona, giving it a task, even telling it what kind of output that you want, you're going to get the response from Gemini much quicker than if you had been more vague or not as specific as what you wanted. All right, so context. So that was T, task. Context is to provide any necessary information, maybe background information that will help the AI tool, in this case Gemini, uh, formulate the response to you. Maybe you want to tell it your goals, the reason for your task, or what you've even tried previously. Um, the more relevant details that you're able to provide, you're going to get better output. This kind of gives the AI an understanding or more comprehension of what you're trying to do, and will again personalize things better for you and give you more relevant responses. And this context bar does have a potential to be the kind of the longer part of the prompt, but it is important because, like I said, you can short circuit and jump to get to the prompts or the responses that you want a lot faster. So here are some examples. I am a new forecaster creating a presentation for local EMs about the upcoming hurricane seasons. And then you tell it, my audience is experiencing disaster response but needs a refresher on the latest storm surge modeling technology. So you told it who you were, kind of the background of what you're doing, and then who your audience were. So here's another one. We are writing a web page to explain El Nino's potential effects on California's winters. So there you kind of told it, what are you doing? And then what is your goal? Your goal is to manage public expectations by explaining that El Nino increases the probability of a wet winter but doesn't guarantee it. And then you'll see the prompt would then have Gemini give you a response. Here's another one, again giving it background. A reporter from a local newspaper has asked for a quote on this weekend's heat wave. So you've got this request from a reporter, so you tell Gemini, hey, it's a newspaper reporter that's asked me this question. The city has opened cooling centers and we need to provide a statement that emphasizes the danger of heat exhaustion, especially for vulnerable populations, and directs people to these resources. So again, by telling Gemini that you got this for a newspaper, it'll format it in a way that's more newspaper friendly or TV friendly. Or if you needed it for a social media post, it would format, if you told it this is for a social media post on X or Twitter or Facebook, it would format it. You could give it the exact same thing information, but it would format it differently. So again, giving it the context, that background, will help give you help you create the prompt that will get you the best response from the Gemini. So references, give it examples, show it what you've done in the past, show it what some examples, and that will help it understand what it needs to do. So examples, like I said, references or examples or additional resources that will guide the AI toward the output that you want. Now, Gemini is multimodal, so that means that you can not only type in what your prompt is, but you can include an image. You can include audio. You could include a spreadsheet. Anything that you can help give it as a reference so that it can get the best response for you. If you happen to know XML, you can actually put the XML coding in there, and you can break it up by subjects and things like that. I'm not familiar with XML, so but this was a tip that somebody had given out there, so I wanted to include it. If you do know XML, you can break it into the tags, and that structured reference will help the AI better give you the response that you're looking for. And then you may hear about something called few-shot prompting. Basically, that's just providing examples. You can have no or zero shot prompting. You don't give it any examples. Few shot prompting means you give it 2 to 5 examples. And that's what few shot prompting is. As you'll see later on, if you can't give it too many examples, sometimes that can actually confuse it. So It helps to give it a few examples, but not too many, and that's better than zero, but you don't want to give it too many as well. So here are some example prompts. Using the following area forecast discussion, generate three key takeaway messages suitable for our Twitter account, and then you give it the reference text from the AFD. Or another one would be another prompt based on the attached scientific paper about climatology of atmospheric rivers in the Pacific Northwest. Write a 200-word blog post for a general audience explaining what an atmospheric river is and a typical impacts on Washington and Oregon. So again, you provided that reference that here's a scientific paper. Can you write a 200 word, so you limit it to 200 word, a blog post for a general audience? Not you want to kind of take that technicality down. And then here's a list of recent METAR observations from several airports in the region. Write a short paragraph summarizing this. So you give it the reference data, and then you have it. You tell it what you want it to do. So those are some prompts that you can use. All right, now evaluate. Check the results. If you've gone through some of my other presentations, you know that sometimes AI can hallucinate. Sometimes AI can be biased, or the response that it gives you is not accurate. You always have to have the human in the loop. You always have to review what Gemini is giving you, what the generative AI is giving you. Again, hallucinations is just a false or nonsensical information that it gives it to you, but it gives it to you in a way that sounds very, very like I'm telling you the truth. And you just need to be aware of this fact. And if you want to understand why these AI models hallucinate, you can go back and watch where we get the AIs and LLM presentation. Talks about how you break things down to tokens, and that can lead to it to give you what it thinks is a reasonable response, and that it's just completely wrong. So always be sure to check your results, fact check them. Maybe you cross-reference them or consult other experts or things like that, or run the same prompt through maybe ChatGPT or something like that to get those information. Again, one of the things that we need to be careful of is bias or stereotypes. So just when you're prompting, try not to prompt it so that it'll give you stereotypes or biases that might be inherent in the training material. These AIs are trained on the internet, and any biases that we as humans have will come through, so we need to be careful about that as we prompt. So once you do get your response and you've evaluated it with the E, then iterate. Always be iterating. Always look at the the output, I should say. Does it meet your expectations? If not, you can clarify your prompt, but hopefully it's better, closer to where you want, and then you can give it maybe a more detailed prompt, or give it a slightly different prompt to kind of narrow down. Maybe you forgot to include, oh no, I wanted that as a bulleted list. So the next time you give it a similar prompt, but this time give me the output as a bulleted list. Or you can break the prompt into shorter sentences. If you have a really complex thing you're trying to get the AI to do, maybe break it down into shorter sentences, and then as you'll see, I give some examples here later on, you kind of chain those prompts together. So for complex requests, like I said, break them up into pieces. You can tweak your phrasing, maybe even switch it to another kind of task. So if you're having it say, you're trying to get it to make a synopsis of a scientific article, and it's just not coming out. Maybe you say, tell this to me in a story as if I was a fifth grader. Instead of saying, like, summarize this article, tell it to me as a story. You kind of change how the instruction, the prompt is for the AI, and that might get you a better result. So those are some of the ways that you can iterate, kind of change your prompt. And then you can, like I said, introduce constraints, and I've mentioned this before. So if you have this, let's say if you're trying to get a summary of a scientific paper and it's 10 pages long, and if you ask it to summarize it and just leave it at that, Gemini may come back with like 2 pages of summaries, and you're like, okay, this is not helping me. Instead, maybe you tell it, hey, summarize this paper, but give it to me in 2 short paragraphs, or give it to me with 4 bullets in a list. So you can, you know, give it some constraints so that again it gets it to what you were looking for more quickly. If you're looking for a post for X, you're going to want it to tell it, hey, this is a post for X. So it's going to know you want to keep the response to less than 240 characters, keep it non-technical and things like that. So you can limit it in that way. So here are some examples. So your initial prompt was generate a list of safety tips for a blizzard, and it gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you say, hey, that's a great list. Your iterative follow-up would say, hey, that's a great list. Now can you reorganize those into 3 categories: preparing for your home, inside your car, and personal safety. And then it'll come back and do that. Or here's another example. Explain what a supercell thunderstorm is. The AI responds to what you asked, and you go, oh, that's too technical. Please explain it again, but this time for a 5th grade audience, and use an analogy like a spinning top. So you tell it who the audience, is you're kind of looking at it for, and even give it kind of an analogy to work with. Another initial prompt might say, write a short tweet about the forecast for the holiday weekend, and the AI response will give it to you. And you say, good, now please add the forecast wind speed and direction so for each day. So it gave you a response on the forecast, but it didn't give you the wind. So now you say add that in there. So you can see how you can iterate. If you don't quite get what you want, you can end up getting that by adding in the next prompt, You iterate, you either add to it or you refine it so you get that result that you're looking for. Now, like I mentioned, you can do prompt chaining. Basically, you break a complex task into a series of interconnected prompts. And that way, it helps you kind of manage the workload, maintains your oversight, and you're able to evaluate the results that Gemini gives you. What can happen is that if you give it a very complex things, it's going to do a whole lot of things, and the results just don't come out the way you think they should be, or you don't like them, and you're like, well, how did you get there? If you break the prompt, if you have, like I said, if it's a complex task, if you break it down into pieces, you can follow it along, and if you see it start to go in a crazy direction, you can iterate on that one prompt there and get it to stop that, don't go crazy, don't go off in a wild direction, get it back to where you need it to be, and then you can keep on chaining those prompts together. So example, what that might look like is prompt 1: analyze the following for area forecast discussion and extract the top 3 meteorological concerns in the next 48 hours and list them in a bullet point. So we tell it what we want and how we want it. Then once it's done that, okay, on the next prompt you say, hey, take those 3 concerns and rewrite them in plain, non-technical language that a member of the public can easily understand. Okay, then it does that. And then prompt 3, now transform those simple points into a 90-second verbal script for a Facebook Live briefing that you have to do. And make sure you include a welcoming statement and a concluding call to action about staying weather aware. So you can see how you prompt. If you try to tell it all of that in one, it might not get exactly what you want. By breaking it down, you can see how you do it. And the same thing on the next one. Give me list 5 distinct audiences who are most vulnerable during extreme heat waves. Then your next prompt might be choose 3 of those audience. For each one, create a list of 3 specific actionable heat safety tips tailored directly to their unique risks. And then prompt 3 is write a Twitter post or an X post for each of those 3 audiences and include the hashtag heat safety or your local state hashtag. So you can see how chaining those prompts together, you'll get the results that you're looking for. All right, meta prompting. Did you know that you can actually have the AI itself make your prompt for you? So if you give it a vague prompt and you don't like the results and you're like, I don't know where to go with this, you can actually have a Gemini write the prompt for you. Or you can just say, hey, Gemini, I don't know what to prompt. I need a prompt that gives me the result. That gives me a web page that talks about lake effect snow or the heat island effect, and then it'll give you the prompt, and then you can just feed that back into it to give it the response, and then it'll give you the response that you're looking for, hopefully. And you can do that with the gems too. When you're writing the gems in Gemini, you can actually have it help you write those gems. The same thing. It can actually help you write the prompt. So, you can give it a prompt that says, I want to ask the AI to write a forecast for me. My current prompt is, tell me the weather for this weekend, which is too simple. How can I improve the prompt to use the TCREI framework to get detailed forecasts suitable for an NWS website? And on you go. Or the next prompt would be, my goal is to have AI generate a detailed explanation for lake effect snow process in our new winter weather interns. The explanation needs to be technically accurate but easy to understand. Please write a prompt for me that will use that I can use that will assign the AI a specific role, provides context, and includes instructions and the desired length and tone. Gemini will then do that for you, and then you can take that prompt and we'll go out and then you can take that response and then prompt Gemini and it'll give you what you're looking for. The last one is telling it to use a persona that you're going to use over and over again. I often need to generate text for a warning coordination meteorologist to send to our emergency managers and other core partners. Help me create a detailed role description that I can save and reuse in my prompts. Write key attributes, communication style, level of technical detail, and objectives I should include in the description to make the AI's response consistently authentic from this persona. So you can see you can give it a lot of information and it will give you that prompt back. And then you can just save that in your prompt library. So again, you don't have to come up even with the prompts on your own. Gemini will help you if you're kind of having that brain lock. Multimodal prompting, like I said, we can prompt with images or audio to help give that prompt. This approach gives the AI either an example or it gives you a picture to work with, so it knows what you're looking for when you're trying to get that response from it. So you can do with the image, you can give it an image showing the trees snapped and lying in the same direction. So you give it an image. This photo was taken by an emergency manager in the damage path of last night's storm. Analyze the pattern of the tree falls in this image. Does the damage signature suggest a tornado or straight line winds? And then you say, explain your answer in a paragraph form suitable for a storm damage survey report. Or with this satellite image, again, you provide it with this image of a hurricane with a well-defined eye. List the visible, list this. This is a visible satellite image of a Hurricane Zeta in 2020. Identify and label the following features: the eye wall, and central dense overcast, and explain what they are and what the eye indicates about the storm's intensity. Something like that. So by providing it that image, or maybe it's an audio file, or something like that, or a PDF, you can help move the prompt forward in the direction much more quickly as you want to go. Now, this is something that I'm really excited about. These AI agents, you can have Gemini take on a role, and it will be your team of experts. It's able to role play. It's able to simulate conversations for you. If you have a specific task, like if you have a hard conversation, if you're doing a job interview, maybe you have media interviews that are coming up, you can have it, pretend like you're a reporter and I need you to give me questions related to some subject matter, and it will do that. It will help you practice a skill. Maybe you can have it say, I need to practice typing out responses to different things. It will do that as well. So receive, and then you can have it actually give you feedback. It will help you learn new topics and things like that. So these are 2 prompts here. The first one says, I'm applying for the senior forecaster position at the NWS office in Duluth, Minnesota. I would like your help with me for my job interview skills. You are the MIC and the selecting official for this position. Create a series of job interview questions that might come up in a NWS senior forecaster job interview. When I'm done, I'll type, I'm done. After the interview is over, provide a summary of my responses and a list of what is good about my answers and what I could do, and what could do with some improvement. Once you enter that, it'll say, great, here's your first question, and then it will give you a question. And you type in your response, and then it will give you another question that you would likely see or hear on a job interview, and you could keep going. And I've done this as a practice, and I was very impressed with the questions that I've got. So it's a great tool if we're about to have job openings. There'll be job openings in the Weather Service. There'll be job interviews. This is a great way to prep for your job interview. And like I said, when you finally type in the word that says "I'm done," in this case, it was actually "I'm done." It will stop, and then it will actually give you a summary of the responses. It'll tell you what you did good and what you need improving on. So it's great. This other one is actually a long tweet. I'm sorry, a long prompt, but it's kind of like you are a leadership and conflict resolution coach or an AI, and your purpose is to help managers prepare for difficult workplace conversations. You give it a little background. I'm a meteorologist in charge, and I need to conduct a formal counseling session with a forecaster whose gossiping is creating a toxic work environment and distracting for our operational mission. Your goal, you give it a goal, you give it some strategies, you tell it, hey, anticipate certain questions that are going to be coming up. And then when I say I'm finished, it will end it, and then it'll give me a summary of what the strengths and weaknesses in that conversation. So when you say go, when you start going, you can say, hey, if you're having this, it will pretend like it's this employee that you're having a problem with, and then you can start to have it go back and forth with it, and it's programmed to actually make the conversation challenging for you, so you can practice that, and then it will kind of give you, when you say I'm done or I'm finished, it will break that, it'll stop, and then it'll give you kind of a summary of the conversations, what you did good, what you could improve on, things like that. These AI agents, I think, are really neat. It really has a lot of potential for certain areas that we have in our jobs. All right. We always have to remember to be responsibly use AI. So when you're prompting, you need to always make sure that there is a human in the loop. We don't ever take a response from an AI and just, without reviewing it, cut and paste and drop it into whatever, our forecast discussion or our Facebook post or an email that we're sending to partners. Always read it, always review it, always look at it with a critical eye. Always be a human in the loop. Verify, verify, verify. Like I said, watch out for hallucinations. Watch out for biases. I mentioned this earlier, and this is the example that I'm going to give you. I'll give you two examples. If you type into generative AI, give me a picture of a doctor and a nurse, more than likely it's going to give you a picture with a man as the doctor and a nurse as a woman. And if you do it again and again, you're going to get the same things over again. So what you can do is you can type in and say, give me a picture of a doctor with a stethoscope in her hands and a picture of a nurse with a IV bag in his hands. And then that will eliminate that bias. I will say I asked Gemini to give me a picture of a meteorologist giving a briefing. I asked it to give me a picture of a meteorologist working at an AWIPS workstation. It was a man. I asked, give me a picture of a meteorologist briefing a emergency manager. It was a man. Give me a picture of a meteorologist working on a forecast. It was a man. I said, give me a meteorologist. Give me a picture of a meteorologist doing something else in the forecast office. I forget what it was. This time it gave me a woman. I was very pleased. And I actually did 5 prompts. 3 of the prompts were men, 2 of the prompts were women. So I thought that was actually very good, that when I asked it for an image of a meteorologist, it wasn't always a man. Because I know that almost, a lot of the training data, it would associate a meteorologist as, since it's a male-dominated field. But I was glad to see that sometimes it did, when I prompted it, it did give me a woman. But you can eliminate that, again, if you say, give me a picture of a meteorologist working at her workstation, something like that, and then it will give you the response that you're looking for. Of course, always remember no PII, no personal information in the prompts. You don't need to do it. Even if you're working on something that has PII in it, just pull it out and say maybe employee X, or just give it generic names, and then let Gemini work through the problem and give you the response, and then you can figure out how to go from there. So don't ever put PII in the prompts. All right, so I found an article that had some misconceptions about AI. The longer and more detailed prompt, the better result. And you can kind of, if you were listening to what I was saying, you might have gotten the impression that if I write a very long prompt, it's going to give me exactly what I want. Actually, if you follow that TCREI structure, you will get the prompt that you want. It only needs to be about 50 words or so. If you're spending time writing a 500 word prompt, you're probably wasting your time. It's costing more money to execute, and you're probably going to end up confusing the AI. More examples always help. It's talking about this few shot prompting. OpenAI, this paper was referencing OpenAI's O1 model, actually performs worse when given too many input examples. So you don't want to give it too many examples. It can actually confuse the AI. They're actually very good. Maybe you only give it one. Maybe you don't give it any. Get the results. If you don't get the results you want, maybe you give it a couple of examples, something like that. Human experts write the best prompts. AI, like I said, can actually write very good prompts. So if you're having trouble getting the results you want, give the AI the idea of the prompt and see what prompt it can come up with. And then set it and forget it. If you get that prompt that you really like and you're really getting the response, remember these models change over time. So always continue to, like I said, optimize. Always be looking that is the prompt giving you the exact response that you want. You might need to tweak it from time to time. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground, but like I said, if you follow this, the task, and you give it the concept, and you give it some references, and you evaluate and you iterate after that, you're going to have a much better luck at getting the tweets. I keep saying tweets. Much more likely to get the responses from the AI, from Gemini that you're looking for. So thunderstorms can rapidly evolve inside. Task, context, reference, evaluate, and iterate. If you follow that framework, you're much more likely to get the response from the AI that you're looking for faster. You can also do the prompt chaining, multimodal prompts. We talked about meta prompting, having the AI, having Gemini write the prompt for you. AI agents, I really like those. You can tell it, hey, assume this role, ask me some back and forth questions, and then when I say I'm tired or I say I quit, then give me a summary. It's a great way to prompt it and then have this back and forth conversation, whatever you need practice with, or maybe have it ask you quiz questions or something like that, just to get you ready for something like that. We mentioned some responsible uses for AI. Always have the human in the loop. Watch out for biases. Watch out for hallucinations, so that you can get the best out of your AI as quickly as you can. All right, so that's the end of this presentation. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch it all the way to here. If you have any questions, you can always contact me at my email address. And like I said, get out there, start prompting, start figuring out what we need in the weather service. If you have a chore, if you have a job or something in the weather service that you just dread or it's repetitive, there might be an AI, a Gemini solution for you. So start getting out there prompting, use that TCREI prompting framework, and you'll get to the prompt, you'll get to the responses that you're looking for faster and with a lot less effort. So just get out there and experiment. Remember, you can't break it. So get out there and start prompting away, and I look forward to seeing what you all come up with in your responses. So have a great day. Bye-bye.